collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Shodo Double Cross Kamen Rider 08. If I go ahead and open up the box here, we can see the case breakdown. So we get Geo, we get Gates, we get a second Gates apparently, we get Kuuga's Titan form, we get Kachidoki Arms for Gaim, second one of those. We get Giriraja, which is one of the Grongi that he really messes up when he first gets Titan form in Kuuga. And then we also get Rising Titan over here, as well as the accessory box. So you get a duplicate of the accessory box, Kachidoki Arms, and Gates, which is kind of surprising. You think if they were going to do a duplicate, it would be of Geo and not of Gates, but we are getting two Gates for some reason. In any case, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 unique boxes. They've started to kind of pare down the number of new characters in these, unfortunately, just to kind of keep up with rising costs and things like that. But we'll take a quick look at the boxes here. So here is Geo, looking pretty good. And then, of course, we get Gates to go along with him. Not really much going on this side or the bottom, but then you get the lineup over here on the side, and then just a picture of them here on the back. Now they are using the accessories that come in the accessory box, so I don't believe those are included in the individual boxes. Then we get Kuuga Titan form. Then we get Kachidoki Arms. Now it's kind of weird, they skipped over Ryugen. They did Gaim, they did Baron, they did Zangetsu. They skipped over Ryugen and went to Kachidoki Arms, which Kachidoki Arms looks great, and I'm happy to have it. But I definitely hope they get back to Ryugen at some point, because those are kind of the main four riders from the show. And then we get Giriraja, which I don't remember very much, but I do remember that episode where he really just lets him have it in the Titan form. So kind of a memorable episode. Definitely makes sense why he got included here. And then over here we have Rising Titan. And I always think it's funny how the others look very similar. They just kind of get gold trim. But Titan and Rising Titan look very different, which I think is kind of cool. I always appreciated how they really changed up the palette there of the color scheme. And then here's your accessory box. You get the Jikan Grade in both sword and gun mode. You get the, I think it's called the Jikan Axe in the axe mode, bow form, and then bow with the piece pulled back. You get both versions of the DJ gun, sword and gun mode, and then you get the sword for Titan and Rising Titan. So nice accessory box there. Pretty excited to have all these accessories. I think this is going to be a pretty excellent wave. I'm going to go ahead and get these all out of the box and put together, and then we will take a closer look. So here are the 6 figures fully assembled and out of the box. I guess we'll start here in the front with Geo. I think he looks pretty good. They did a nice job with the paint applications here. Nice metallic purple. And then the pink on the head and everything looks really sharp. The helmet looks great there. Now all of these have the same basic articulation. You have the head on a ball joint, so you have a nice range of motion there. You can look up a little bit. You can look down, side to side. You can tilt side to side a little bit. Now with the shoulder pads getting in the way, you can see they do lift up a little bit, but they do kind of get in the way of the shoulder articulation somewhat. But you have a ball joint there, so you can kind of front to back a little bit, out to the side a little bit. You have a bicep swivel, 90 degrees in the elbows, and you can see he's got the 2 ride watches there molded onto the forearms. The wrists can rotate around. They are a little tight, but they're just on little pegs here, and they do come with some different hand options that we'll get into in a moment. You have a ball joint here in the abdomen, as well as another one down here at the waist. The GQ driver painted very nicely there. You can see with the one ride watch attached, the other one open. You have a ball joint in the hip. It's a little limited, especially for some reason when kind of kicking to the front. Kick out to the side, really nice. But then when you kind of come forward, it kind of like goes out to the side a little bit. It's a little weird. But you do have a thigh swivel there. I would say over 90 degrees there in the knee. And then you have a ball joint in the ankle. You have a cutout here on the side of the foot. Let me see if I can get that to actually focus. There we go. So that can kind of give you a little bit, like if you want to put them in kind of a stance with the legs spread out. And you get a little bit of front to back as well. And then you have a joint here in the toe. And some nice detailing here on the bottom of the foot. So all in all, pretty solidly articulated figure. Now, he doesn't have a ton of paint applications. His color scheme is mostly black, but you have that same metallic purple there for the kneecaps, a little bit of silver around the ankles. and not really much going on the back with the exception of the head and the shoulder pads. He does have the Jikan Gurei. Now this comes in the accessory pack. Unfortunately, no paint whatsoever on this, but you can see the Ju for gun is molded on there. So if you wanted to customize this with some paint, you absolutely could because it's all molded there and it looks really sharp. Also in the accessory box, you get the sword version for the Jikan Gurei. And you can see Ken is there. So again, if you wanted to paint this, a lot of nice molded detail. They just, couldn't spare any paint, I guess, for the accessory box. Well, that's not true. You can see the DJ gun gets a little bit of orange there, but that's really it. All the rest are just molded out of black. But yeah, pretty sharp. I like the length of the blade. I think that looks pretty good. Easy enough for him to hold either of them. You can see I've got a grasping hand over here, and then I've just got a closed fist over here. We'll go through the hand options in a moment. But yeah, you can hold that pretty well. So no issues there, and I feel like the sword's a good length. I think they did a good job with that. So Geo is looking pretty good. Let me bring in the hand options. I don't know what it is, but I feel like the legs, I'm having a hard time not making them look bow-legged. Like, I feel like no matter what I do, they look like they're too turned into the side, or the feet are a little off or something, like no matter how I try to pose it. And I will say there's something going on with this one where I might have to pop it off the ball joint and shave it down a little bit or something, because I kind of put it out to the side and it wants to kick back. So there might be like a little nub or something there on the ball joint. Like a, something, piece of flashing or something that I might have to fix. But it's weird. It doesn't seem like it wants to get all the poses that I want it to. And for whatever reason, he's looking a little bow-legged, but I don't know what's causing it. Yeah, see, when it kind of wants to tilt, like I want it to go like this, and it kind of snaps back. And I don't know what that's about. But anyway, let's put him off to the side, and we'll take a look at his hand options. Come on, Geo. There we go. You know what? Fine. You can go off to the side in a timeout. So anyway, let's look at his hand options here. So I had a grasping hand and a closed fist. You can see here's the other closed fist, so you get a full set of closed fist hands. You get this pointing finger hand. This one fell off over here, but you also get an open, set of hands here, not necessarily grasping. Let me see if I can pop these out of here. So here is the other grasping hand. So if you wanted him to dual wield, even though he only has one version of the gun at a time. So you get a closed fist set of hands, a kind of grasping set of hands. Then you have like an open set of hands here. And then you get this one, which I think is actually pretty cool. You get a hand holding a ride watch. So it looks like he's about to use this to transform by popping this into the second slot. I think that's really cool. It's a really nice hand option. I like that quite a bit. So, very happy that that's included. Now, the one problem is he comes with so many different hand options. The way these are done, the hands, or the pegs on the hands, are different sizes, so that you can't put a left hand in the right hole, vice versa. So, because of that, he's got too many extra left hands. And so when I go to pop this in, it just falls right out because the peg is too small. The pegs on the right hands are larger, thicker. So, yeah, unfortunately, not great storage for all the extra hands for Geo. But just have to kind of keep track of that. All right. Yeah, it's something with, see how the foot just kind of naturally keeps going back to that position? I'll have to mess with it. But, see if I can get him to stand here. There we go. Maybe. Anyway, let's go ahead and we'll move on to Gates. So Gates looks pretty good. Now, the one thing that kind of threw me, the hands are done in solid black plastic, and I feel like they should be red. Now, I know black and red is his primary color scheme, but it just feels a little off with everything else in the arm being red and then the hands being black. I think it's because they just kind of stole Geo's hands and duplicated them here. And I don't know, it just looks a little weird. I kind of wish that they were red instead of black. But I also kind of wish that the ride watch holders here, maybe they could have done the forearm out of black and then the hand out of red. I don't know. I can understand why they couldn't do that because it's not how sprues work, but something about the hand being just completely different from most of the rest of the body is throwing me. But you do have some nice paint here. You have the black watch band running through the center here with the Jiku driver, again, painted nicely. And I like all of the metallic paint. He's got the purple here as well. I think the head looks really good. Helmet is nicely detailed there. Over here on the back, he definitely gets a lot more color than Geo does, with the maroon carrying around to the back as well as the yellow and the purple. And his head, the band as well, is painted all the way to the back. And then we have the G-Con axe, I believe this is called. So you can see we have the folded up axe version. Also included is the bow version, as well as the drawn back bow version. It's a little difficult to actually get him to hold this and actually get the hand close to this, unfortunately. I was messing with this for a while. You can kind of get it to work, but it doesn't look super natural, unfortunately. And by that I don't mean it looks like a ghost. I just mean it doesn't look the way it should. You kind of have to have it like this. Normally what I would want is I would want this arm. Oh, there goes the whole hand and everything. All right. Try this again. I would want this arm kind of all the way out and holding this. And then I would want this arm to be able to come over and, you know, like this. But you can kind of make it work if you do something like that. It's not terrible. It's not the best. I mean, these figures just unfortunately don't have the range of motion for a bow. But you can kind of approximate something like that, and it's not too bad. Otherwise, he has all the same articulation as Geo. Looks pretty good. Now, in terms of his hands right now, I have him with one really open hand and one grasping hand. So if we go ahead and take a look at the hands that he comes with, you can see he also has the Ride Watch hand, which I think is really cool. He's got a closed fist set of hands. He's got the open set of hands. Here's the other one here. And a grasping set of hands. So he comes with 3 full sets and then the one Ride Watch hand. So really the only one that he doesn't have is the pointing finger hand. But because they're basically the same hands as Geo, if you wanted him to utilize that one, you certainly could. There's no reason you couldn't just pop that on his hand instead. So that is the 3 versions of the G-Con axe. So yeah, nice to finally get Gates. Would have been cool. Actually, we did get... No. Now I'm confusing myself. I was trying to think if we got Tsukuyomi as Shodo, I think, not as Shodo. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah, she was only a Shodo figure. Would have been nice to get her, but you never know. Maybe in the future. We'll see how that goes. Let's go ahead. Let's move on to my personal favorite from the set, Kachidoki Arms. So if you're wondering where all of the budget from the set went, it's definitely this figure. It's got the most paint applications, even have a really nice metallic orange here on the DJ gun, which looks fantastic. You can see the flags here are painted. You can slide these right out of this holster here, so if you want him to hold them as weapons. The only issue is because they're so thin, if we utilize one of his grasping hands, it's going to be kind of difficult. It holds it okay, but it's kind of a loose fit because, you know, the hand has to be able to grasp the gun. And so you can kind of put it in there and it'll hold it okay, but you can see it's kind of loose. So, well, I pulled that out. That's not really fair. It holds a little better than you would expect, but I feel like you kind of want to utilize that little, like, edge there to kind of put that into the hand, and then it'll hold it a little bit better. So if you do that, it's not too bad, but it is nice that he can actually hold those as well as them being popped into this little thing, and they just slide right in very simply, and they are nicely painted, one on each side. Unfortunately, not both sides, but, you know, I understand. The helmet looks phenomenal. I can't get over how nicely that helmet's done. It is painted completely and just looks really, really solid, and I love the look of that. They did such a nice job with that. The armor here looks really good all down the front as well. He's got the yellow here on the shins. Now, he is missing a little bit of paint on the forearms, but because the armor panel kind of covers most of it, you don't notice it as much. And he does have that little gold band around the wrist, which is nice. The DJ gun looks fantastic. Now, the one thing I will say, because of the armor here, it is going to hinder his articulation. You can't really go out to the side. You can go front to back, not too bad. Doesn't really get in the way of that. But unfortunately, the out to the side movement is almost non-existent, so that is kind of a bummer. Similar with the legs. You can't really kick out to the side or the front because that armor gets in the way. Now, this still moves around, and you can see how you have these two silver pieces here, and there is kind of like a little spot to connect them in, so if you want to try to wiggle that into this section here, you can kind of do so. You can kind of see where they line up in that little spot right there. So it's nice that you can move them around if you want to move the torso, but then if you just want them to stand still and you want to connect those in so that it looks a little bit better, you can do that as well. You can see the Sengoku driver there, and he has the larger Kachidoki lock seed, which looks fantastic. Really appreciate that. So nice attention to detail there. Let's go ahead. I have the other version of the DJ gun here with the Muso saber. Now, of course, this is one solid piece. This does not come out at all, but you can see the saber has been inserted, and now we have the sword version of the DJ gun, which looks fantastic. And you can put this in his hand like so. Now, the one thing is, oh, that's the wrong hand. That's why. I was like, why is that not connecting in there? So you can go ahead and, as I knock Geo over off to the side, that's fine. So that looks pretty cool. I like that quite a bit. It's definitely a nice size. I think they did a pretty good job. And I like that it's not super hollow on the back. A couple little spots, which is okay. But for the most part, the detail is there on both sides, which I really like. So he's got all the same articulation spots. Even though some of them are hindered by the armor, they're all still there. So all of these figures have the exact same articulation. But yeah, Kachidoki Arms came out great. I still want them to go back and do Ryugen, but they did a really nice job with Kachidoki Arms here. And I don't believe I fully covered it, but he has a closed fist set of hands, an open set of hands to kind of like rest the gun in the hand, and then he has a grasping set of like trigger finger hands. So he has 3 sets in total. So let's put all that to the side. Let's move on to Giriraja. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. He's really neat. I like him quite a bit. He's got the crazy hairdo. You know, like if Captain Planet really let it grow out. It's really neat. The detailing, I think, looks pretty fantastic. You know, the eyes are painted nicely. He's got this kind of necklace here that looks pretty good. Very simplistic figure. I mean, he doesn't have a lot in terms of paint applications. He's got this kind of brown diaper on. He's got a little bit of detailing here on the thighs. And, of course, you can see the belt is nicely done. But other than that, he's a pretty simplistic figure, and I feel like a lot of the paint budget that would normally be allocated to this figure went to Kachidoki, and I'm fine with that. I think they plan these very strategically, you know, take paint from one to give to the other and things like that. But yeah, he looks cool. I still like him a lot. He has littler shoulder pads. He can get a little bit out to the side, little bit of front to back. Otherwise, everything else is pretty unhindered. He does have kind of like molded toes, which is kind of a neat look. Still has, you know, the toe movement there, but you can see it's not a clean boot. They kind of like it is kind of underneath, but then they had to add the toes to the top, which I think works. Just all in all, I think he's a cool looking figure, very unique, and it's nice to get some villains in here so we have someone for our riders to beat up on. Now you can see here in this hand, he's got this like little tuft of fur. If I remember correctly, it's been a minute since I've seen Kuuga, but I think he used to pull out tufts of his hair and then kind of throw them like knives, if I'm remembering correctly. And I think that's what they're simulating here. Over here, I just have like an open hand. If we take a look at the hands that he comes with, he's got 2 of this kind of like tuft of hair holding hand. He's got 2 open hands, and then he's got a closed fist set of hands. So 3 in total, and he is the only one who does not have an accessory in the accessory box. So we get 2 for Geo, we get 3 for Gates, 2 for Kachidoki, the flags actually come with the figure. They're not in the accessory box. And then each form of Kuuga over here gets its own sword. And he gets nothing. No, no weapons. Again, I believe he threw those tufts of hair like knives, so I don't think he necessarily needed a weapon. But worth pointing out, he's the only figure here that did not get a weapon in the accessory box. Let's go ahead and move on to our two forms of Kuuga. So we have Titan and Rising Titan. They do share a lot of the same pieces. Basically, the legs are going to be exactly the same. I think all the forms of Kuuga have the same legs. I don't think they've changed since Mighty Form back in the day. But the one thing that is different, of course, we have our two swords here. I'm going to go ahead and take these out so you can see the difference. They both look fantastic. I mean, they did a really nice job with this. So you have the normal Titan sword in purple, a really nice metallic purple, looks really sharp. I love that. And then you have the Rising Titan sword, which looks absolutely fantastic. It's very similar. You can see the hilts are very similar. And the way this worked was there was another piece that went over top. If you got the CSM one that happened recently, you definitely know what I'm talking about. But then this one's done solidly in gold. But again, it's a really nice metallic gold. I think that looks great. I really like both of these. I think both of these swords came out fantastically. Now, if we take a look at these, I believe they are the same mold. So I think the heads are identical. I don't think there's any difference in the heads whatsoever. You can see that the mold of the armor is exactly the same. This one is just painted silver with a purple trim, and this one is painted purple with a gold trim. The forearms, I believe, are exactly the same as well. Again, just painted in the appropriate fashion. And then really the only part of these two that is any different is the belt. You can see that the belt is different, so they only had to remold the belt. Otherwise, this is the exact same figure, painted differently, and that's what Bandai loves, and that's how we're able to get something like Kachidoki in this wave. And maybe that's why they had to skip Ryugen. Maybe they were like, we have some plainer figures in this wave, we want to do Kachidoki right, and so we're going to do it now, and then maybe we'll get Ryugen in a future wave where the, paint applications can shuffle around a little bit more evenly, or the molding can shuffle around. But yeah, basically these are the exact same figure, but they're painted differently enough that they don't immediately seem like that. And I think that's kind of cool. I mean, like I said, the belts are different, I'll give them that. But otherwise, they are the exact same figure, just painted differently. But it makes sense for that, and also I feel like the paint scheme is done so well that it's not super apparent that everything is exactly the same. The silver and the purple over here look fantastic. The purple and the gold over here look fantastic. Painted all the way around. They didn't even skimp on the... Well, I was just about to give them credit. They didn't skimp on the trim on the shoulder pad, but they did unfortunately skimp on the trim here on the abdomen. So that's a shame. I feel like that's the only part that they would have needed to paint. And I feel like you did everything else. Why not just give it that last little bit just to make it absolutely perfect? Because it's so close. I mean, like I said, the shoulders went all the way around, which I really appreciate. The collar went all the way around. It's just this last little bit along the back here. And then this thing would have been flawless. It honestly would have been flawless. It's still a fantastic figure. It looks good. The metallic paint really pops, and I think it looks fantastic. It's just a shame that if they got it up to about 95, 98%, and then just dropped the ball at the last little minute. I get it. It's budget stuff. I'm not really mad at them. I just feel like you got so close. It's so close right there. But yeah, both of those look fantastic. Now, I believe they come with the exact same set of hands, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think there's any difference here. So you can see they both have the kind of like posing martial arts set of hands. They both have a closed fist set of hands. And then we have some grasping hands and also like a wider open set of hands for holding the swords. So right now I have a closed fist on him and an open hand over here. So that's why when we look at this, you can see this one is the two closed fists. So this one goes with Titan. And then it has two grasping hands, two martial arts style hands. And then I guess he only has the one. Maybe I stole that from the other figure. I'm honestly not sure. Like I said, they're interchangeable. They are pretty much exactly the same. Well, you know what? No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. The rising form has that extra little symbol there on the back of the palm. that Titan doesn't have. It's actually a really cool detail. So they went all out in that regard. They took, it's the same hands, but then they went and molded the symbol on the back of the palms there for Rising Titan. That's actually really cool. I like that a lot. Let me see, did I? No, okay, so he did come with kind of an open hand. So let's double check this and review. So we have two kind of posing martial art hands. We have two grasping hands. We have a closed fist set of hands. I guess he just has the one extra open hand. And then over here, same two kind of, you know, martial art posing hands. Closed fist, open hand, and two grasping hands. So, yeah. In any case, you get a lot of options there in terms of the hands. Sometimes it can be difficult to keep track of all of them because they all look so similar and they're all basically just done in black plastic. But I think this is a good wave. Honestly, I like this a lot. I mean, Kuuga is very solidly represented, takes up about half of the wave. Well, exactly half of the wave. With Titan, Rising Titan, and the Grongi. Then you have, just out of nowhere, Kachidoki, looking spectacular. Definitely my favorite of the wave, and I hope Gaim doesn't stop here. And then kind of rounding out some, you know, riders that hadn't been done yet in Shodo. So we have Gates and Geo here. I think at this point you can do a display with all 20 Heisei riders. I think. I'd have to double check that. But I think these two were the last ones missing. And so that's why they wanted to put them in this wave. But it's a solid wave, honestly. Really, really sharp. Like I said, Kachidoki, definitely my number one. Both forms of Kuuga look great. Like I said, even though they are basically the same figure with the exception of the belt, the paint is so beautiful. And I'm just so bummed they didn't do that last little bit of trim around the back because otherwise it's almost completely perfect. And don't get me wrong, it's still a good figure. I'm not really upset about that one lacking paint application, but it was just so close. You did everything else. But they still look really sharp, and I really like both of those. Maybe it's just the purple. The purple and the gold really pops. Purple and the silver still looks good, but the purple and the gold just really pops. It's a fantastic color scheme. Unfortunately, I would say that Geo and Gates are probably the weakest of the set, and it's not to say that they're terrible. There's not anything wrong with them, but the black hands with Gates when the rest of his body is red, I don't know why it just feels off to me, and I'd have to go back and watch. It's been a long time since I've seen Geo. Maybe his hands are supposed to be black, but it really just kind of feels like they just reused Geo's hands. They just ran another set, and I feel like use the molding again 100%, but just cast it in red plastic. Why are we casting it in the wrong... Like, I don't expect you to design him new hands, but cast them in the right color plastic. I don't know. I don't know how all this stuff works, but yeah, they're fine. I love their helmets. I will say I think their helmets are easily the sharpest part of both of them. Gates gets a little bit more paint on the torso because that maroon wraps around the back. The Geo colors look good, but because he doesn't have anything on the back, I feel like he misses out a little bit for that. But again, nothing wrong with them. I just think they're probably my least two favorite of this set. Just because I feel like they don't pop as much as the others do. But again, there's nothing wrong with them. It's a solid wave. I think it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you've been collecting all the other ones up until now. Definitely worth checking these out. And the accessory box has some really good stuff as well. These two guys definitely get the star treatment when it comes to the accessory box because they each get multiple versions of their weapon. These guys each get their sword. Kachidoki gets the two versions of his weapon. And then sadly... this guy's left to fend for himself. But yeah, I think they're fun. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Who's your favorite of this wave? Do you kind of agree with my ranking? Let me know your thoughts down below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thank you so much for watching.